Kelly here, and I'm back with another video. Today we are making our own neon glitter paste. Super fun. So we're using this set from Hero Art. This is new, and that's actually one of my favorite sets from the entire release, honestly. It's called Your Dynamite. It's got some roller skates in it. We talked about before with the release of the kit that the whole kind of theme is like childhood nostalgia, and these are definitely it for me. These are definitely it for me. So I'm using this, I think it's like a starburst pattern stencil. I'll link it below. I can't remember the name of it. And so I really wanted to see if I could get some fun colors. I know in the past I have used like dye ink refills to color pastes before. And so I was like, you know what, let me just try this and see. So I have the Hero Art glitter paste. It's a clear glitter, which Jessica Frost Ballast used this on like a black background, and it looked amazing with the same Your Dynamite set. But anyway, so I just added, I think I started with 2 drops of each color in the individual piles. And so you just want to be careful about how much you're adding to each one, because you're adding moisture, and we're working on just regular cardstock. So we don't want it to be, you know what I mean? You don't want too much moisture, that it doesn't hold its consistency, but enough that you have pigment. So I found that 2 drops was good for the size of the piles that I had. I did go through, because this was my first time, I literally filmed my first experiment. I was mixing all the colors together. So some things to note. You definitely need more than this. I ended up having to do a whole second batch to cover my background. And you have to work quickly. I already knew that, and that's kind of why I had everything set up, like my baby wipes off to the side to clean off the paste as I was going and switching from different colors, because this stuff dries really quick. And so in order to mix the colors and then apply it and still have time before it dries, you do have to be a little bit speedy here. We don't want to take our time. Which is great, because honestly, like, this technique lends itself to being very quick about it. So I use the brights purples, brights pinks, brights yellow, and then the chartreuse color. Truly, in hindsight, I could have left out the chartreuse or the yellow, and I don't think it would have mattered. I did find some areas got a little bit muddy. And I should have known, because the color wheel tells me so, like where the purple and yellow met and where the pink and the green met, because they're complementary colors. I did have some areas that got just a smidge muddy, but I don't think at the end of the day it was really noticeable in the final card. Because we have this focal point, and the stencil, you know, really is meant to be background. But how about these neons, y'all? Like, seriously, these totally... I was born in the 80s. I had the majority of my childhood in the 90s. And neons were a thing. Like, they were a thing, and I love them so much. So I haven't really had a chance to play with them as watercolors too much. I did use them in a class that I taught for Hero Arts, but that was really the only time that I got to use them. So I'm excited to play around with them for summer. And I think that this worked really great, honestly. There were some issues after it dried, and I will address those and how I fix them, and maybe how you can avoid them in the future. But for just giving this a go and seeing how it would work, I would say we were fairly successful. It wasn't any less glittery. Like, the glitter amount is still there in the final piece. I didn't have any issues removing my stencil. You can see it kept, it was still a nice and clean application, even though the paste was a bit more liquid than it would be normally. And so I just wanted to show you that, like, you can see the stencil in the background. It cleaned up just fine. It wasn't stained at all. So here you can see some things I noticed after application. First of all, my cardstock curled up. Like, I've added a ton of extra moisture to it, and as it dried overnight, it completely curled up. The other things that I noticed is there were some parts where around the edges, it may be kind of pulled away. Not in all of it, just really in some spots. So I don't know if maybe I had too much liquid there, but, or maybe I had too thick of a coat. So in order to fix the issue that I'm having with how curled up it is, I just put it in and I played around with a couple of different sandwiches in my platinum. What I ended up with was the A plate, the B plate, and then two C plates, like as if I was cutting a die, and the shim on top, the F, I don't even want to call it a plate because it's literally just like a very thin piece of paper. And that worked for me. You did notice that I put it inside a piece of copy paper, and that was just to protect it, to make sure that I didn't get anything that might have been on some of my plates on the stencils, like on the actual card background. The other thing I did just to make sure that it stayed flat and did not curl up, you probably could put it under a book or something if you don't have a die cutting machine. But I also backed it with another piece of cardstock. And this is going to help it to just be a bit sturdier in laying flat. It also gives it a little bit of added dimension, because now you have two pieces of cardstock stacked together. But this definitely helped it to stay flatter instead of wanting to curl up on itself, because it gave it more weight. And so I just used my Hero Arts precision glue for that. And I just made sure that I was pretty meticulous in getting it around all of the edges and into the corners. And it stayed. This is how it stayed. And then I just set that aside, and then we're going to move on to the stamping and coloring. So I decided it has this, this is just such a cute stamp set. It's got two little roller skates, and then it's got like this, it's like a Rainbow Bright vibe. What I wanted to show you was just all I was doing was trimming off the excess paste, and I had no issue, since it was dry, just cutting right through that and trimming it off so that I had a nice clean edge. So this little Rainbow Bright type deal, like with the little waves and the stars, oh my gosh, could I love that more? Could I? I don't think so. So when I was looking at like retro style skates, I came across this pair that I really loved, and they were blue, shocking. And they had a neon orange and neon yellow. That was the colors of them. And I was like, dude, these are awesome. These are fantastic. I never had those. I never had colored skates. I was a renter. I was a skate renter. We'll save that for story time here in a minute. But so I just I wanted to replace the orange with a hot pink, because I had used that in the background. And then I also used some purple to color in the designs as well. But the majority of the skate, even though it doesn't go per se, like when you're looking at this in the card in the background, I've got this bright yellow, bright green, bright pink, bright purple. So what am I doing with the blue skate? I'm creating contrast. That's the reality of it. So the reason that I chose to go with a bolder color for the skate is because I already have so much bold color going on. I felt that if I colored my skates the same colors as what was going on in my background, that they wouldn't stand out enough. And so I loved the idea of the blue skate with the accent colors being the colors in the background. And so that's what I decided to go with. So yeah, let's talk story time. So I told you, I totally grew up in the 90s. In the 90s, by the time that I was like going out and about, skate stations were it. It was where the party was at. I went skating every Friday night from the time that I was in probably fifth grade through like 7th grade. It was like we went to the skate station. That was what was available to us. And so I never owned a pair of roller skates because I wasn't really very good on them. I went to skate station to socialize. I didn't go to skate station to skate. Don't be silly. But I went there to socialize because all my friends went. And so when I was growing up in my household, every household is different. But in our household, we had chores that we could earn an allowance for. So I would do my chores all week. I would get my $5. That was my allowance, which would give me enough money to get in and then like have like $2 for snacks. And then, you know, if I had money left over from something else, like some other way I had earned it, washing the car, or, you know, if my parents were just feeling generous on a Friday night, or if I had like birthday money, stuff like that. Then I would have a little bit of extra money to take with me in addition to my allowance. And they had, you know, just your regular, what do they call them? Why can't I think of the word? I keep wanting to say convenience, but that's not it. They had a concession stand. Lord have mercy. They had a concession stand, and you could buy like pretzels and Slurpees and candies and, you know, whatever. I can still picture it. But anywho, so I would do my chores all week long so that I could go to the skate station on Friday nights with my friends. And, you know, sometimes you would hopefully, now in 6th grade, I was younger of my group. I was 12 going on 13 when I was heading into 7th grade. So at that point I was interested in boys, and, you know, me and my girlfriends talked, and we did a little bit of makeup, a little bit of hair, you know, how it was. And so you'd get all, especially once we were in like 7th grade, you know, you'd do your hair and your makeup and get all ready. And then you would go to the skate station. And everybody was there, okay? Everybody was at the skate station. All the peoples from school were going there. And so you might see a little boy that you like, or, you know, you would just catch up with your girlfriends. But then they always had the couple skate. And so, you know, as a young person who doesn't skate well, by the way, I did not skate well. Those little rubber stoppers, like, that's what they are in the front. You put that toe down to slow your speed. I still don't know how to use them. I'm old lady now, and I have no idea how to stop myself on a pair of roller skates. I always just grab the side of the rink to slow myself down. But anywho, you could meet people, and we had the skate station was in the city that I went to school in, but there was also several other school districts in our area, and there wasn't a skate station in every city. So there was one in the city next to me to the south, but other than that, there wasn't any other skate stations. So they had to come to us. And so you got to meet people from like different schools and stuff like that. And so never in my life had anybody ever asked me to couple skate. Couple skate, by the way, is when a person who is interested in skating with you wants to skate to the slow song. Like the DJ, they actually had a DJ would announce that it was a couple skate. They'd play a really slow song. And you would just hold hands as you were skating around the rink. This sounds so ridiculous, but it was a big deal back then. You know what I'm saying? If someone asked you to couple skate. And so all the entirety of the time, all the years that I had gone there, nobody had ever asked me to couple skate. It might be because I brushed my curly hair. But anyway, moving on. And so it was like in the summertime, right before school started, like going into middle school. And where I lived, it's not this way anymore. But we used to have 2 middle schools in my city. And so if you lived on this side of town, you went to one middle school. And if you lived on this side of town, you went to the other middle school. So even though you had kids who were the same age living in the same city, you didn't all go to the same school. And so when high school came together, you met a bunch of new people, and it was the same thing for elementary. So like elementary going into middle school, you had, 10 or 12 elementary schools, and then they would all converge into these 2 middle schools. So I didn't know everybody who was at the skate station, because maybe they were in a different school district, or maybe they were in a different school in the same district altogether. And so one of the times that we went skating, it was like just as we were getting into summer. And I was super, like, we were coming out of the 90s and like heading into kind of what would be like my middle school, high school years. And I was really into, what is it called? What kind of music is it called? What did they call it back then? Ska. That's what they called it. So I was super into like 311 and Mighty Mighty Bosstones and like just all of these kind of what I guess would be considered more alternative bands. And let's talk about the card real quick. This is so here I've used the nesting infinity circles, and I cut it out because I wasn't sure if I was going to use the negative or the positive. And so here, using the cutout, you can see you just barely see the background, which is definitely a great way, a really, really great way to mute down a busy background, to only use a portion of it. But because there was so much decor going on with my super awesome skates and my Rainbow Bright Stripes, I felt like it made more sense to use the solid circle as kind of like a place to rest the eye. And then I'm going to pick all of this up now that I have it arranged. I'm going to pick all of it up with my press and seal, so I can trim down this panel. I decided I wanted to trim down the panel and put in a white border again, just to help bring everything together and make the background just a little bit less busy. But this card is loud, and that's okay. I'm fine with it. So I did reuse the back, you can see, because I just need the white edges and I'm cheap. So I'm going to save my paper. And when I mount this onto my card base, nobody will ever see that portion of it that it's cut out in the background. Literally no one will know. And then I'm going to pop my circle up on foam. There was a portion of my sentiment that kind of hung over the, the bottom of the circle. And so I did add foam to that as well, but I did not remove the release paper for any of the bits that hung over the edge. I only removed the release paper for the circle. And then as I am going through and putting down the layers, I will remove the release paper as I'm putting down each individual layer. I hope that makes sense. Where were we? We were talking about, oh yeah, so I was like, so there was this guy that I had never met before. And really truly, like, I got to know him afterward once we were in high school together. I didn't see him after the couple skate, but his name was Sean, and he was a super nice guy, and he was clearly, like, he had the chain, that was very popular back then, and he had on like a Mighty Mighty Boss Tones t-shirt, and, Sean was the first person who ever in my life asked me to couple skate, and I think I was like 13. I was probably 13. And so this complete stranger who I had never met, did not know. It was him and his buddies there, and it was me, and I don't even remember who I was with. Must not have been a very good friend, because I can't remember. But anywho, so he asked me if I would want to couple skate with him. Actually, his friend asked me. Isn't that the way it goes? And so that was my first and my only couple skate ever at Skate Station, was with this guy that I had never met. Now, he turned out to actually go to the different middle school, and so I saw him again in high school. We had a couple of classes together. He was very, very nice kid. But there was it was the most strange thing ever, because it's not like there was any conversation. We literally just held hands and went around the rink until the song was over, and then parted ways. It's not even, we might have exchanged phone numbers that I probably didn't use. We might have. I cannot recall, but it was, it was obviously memorable of my time at Skate Station. So yeah, that's story time for you today. So here, now that everything is put together, I'm going to go back in and add in my details. I used a white gel pen to add like a little bit of shine on the, what do you call those? The little inlets for the laces. They have a name. And then I also used it to go over the stitching for the skates, to kind of make those pop a little bit. And then I used the crystal clear lacquer from Hero Arts over the stars, and like the heart on the skate, as well as a portion of the actual wheels. And then that's it. That's the whole card. So I hope you're inspired to give this a try. Color your own glitter paste. See how it goes. Check out those neons. They're super fun. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.